the extension bill is still a very hot topic, right? And so we believe that Jimmy, myself, and Ashley, we believe that our group and all of you can help play a role in really starting to tell very, very genuine, true stories about OZ's successes that we can highlight and bring to Washington with us. So we're going to start to, if anyone has, this is an ask for me to you, if anyone has any projects that are not just in fundraising mode, but that have raised some money that are truly representative of the communities, meaning that the investor or the issuer, anyone that's at the sort of financial level of the deal is truly participating and engaging with and interacting with the communities. We all know that there's a lot of deals that are, more traditional real estate development. They're looking for, the numbers to work, and the numbers are great, but in reality, what we're looking to do is highlight and elevate the conversation around the people and not just the project or the projections. And that's going to be really important for what we're going to be doing at Capitol Hill in the spring and leading up to that. So I know that Jimmy is making a conscious effort. This is a seed that we've been planting for a while to highlight these types of projects that I just mentioned on his podcast. And I see Sherry. I think Sherry might be a participant or a guest coming up on the podcast. So keep an eye out for that. I know she's also been talking with Emily about getting on a Friday to present some of her projects, or maybe one or two. And it's Sherry. My apologies. So anyway, those are just kind of a lead in to a couple of other initiatives that we are taking here, that we have been taking for a while. But an announcement is that let's see, I want to make sure I have the date right. Next week, the 20th, we started to, and you might remember a few months back, we had a session with Matt McBride where it was like a group peer support kind of analysis of his project and working through how he could technically navigate some of the challenges he was having. And we did it in group format. So we decided to formalize that and make it available to all members of OZworks Group. And that is where we want you to bring in your projects and take a few minutes to explain what you're up to and identify your challenges. John Vachon's going to be there with me, and we're going to talk through some high-level strategy stuff in a group setting. That's going to be on the 20th. And so I think Emily might have a link for that. And this is, like I said, it's available to every member of OZworks Group, and it's going to happen on a monthly basis. So we're starting that reoccurring. That actually takes the place of what was formerly known as the Porto Zone. So we can talk about any type of project in there, real estate, operating business, etc. Also, and I'm just going to run down through these, and if anybody has any questions, you can feel free to chime in at the end. Also, we will be doing another workshop. And so this is sort of where we're at with OZworks Group and our affiliation with OZPros. So we really want to create a ladder that people can climb, that you all can engage with and have access to. So we want to stick with our free events, our public events that ultimately get people interested and excited about what we're doing in here. They can come in as a light member. They can experience things like this group strategy call and these Friday sessions. And then there's other levels like the base membership, where you can come into the compliance zone, the real estate zone, those monthly sessions where we get into really kind of nuanced logistics for opportunity zones. The idea here is that we don't want to overwhelm someone who's at the starting point, but we want to have definitely more advanced content and tools and resources that you can grab into as you progress. And so the other thing that I wanted to mention is that in and around that same context is that we did a workshop a couple weeks ago with Ashley Tison. I believe I know a handful of you were on that, where we talked about a compliance checklist for QOZBs and QOFs. And so we just had a really, really great feedback on that, and decided to do another one, which is coming up on the 28th, which is, these are paid workshops. They're 2 hours. Ashley's there the whole time. John's there. We have Brett Siglin as well. We're answering questions, but we're also doing very, very in the weeds type of work on different compliance tools, and we're providing some of those tools in other ways. So I know like Patrick was a part of the last workshop that we did, and now that he's gotten the whole suite of tools, that those are accessible, and these workshops are actually free to or included in, I should say, people who are bootcamp members with Ashley through OZPros. So I want to start to highlight some of these things because they are steps that you can take. The working capital safe harbor that's coming up is critical, right? I've gone through it. I've done the working capital safe harbor plan for OZworks Group. It's just, once you get in it and you start to have some questions, or it's just nice to be able to come to a workshop like this, or even some of the other sessions, and ask specific questions versus like, where do I even start? So I don't know, Patrick, if you had anything to say. You've become a spokesperson on our emails as well. So thank you. I owe you your commission at some point. But I don't know if you had anything to say.
No, I just look at the email that has the video. I just say what I said there. I have joined the boot camp, and I find the sessions are incredibly enlightening. You think, well, I'm just going to kind of double task through this thing, but you get involved in the specifics of somebody's project, or all the questions that pop up. I think in one of the calls, boot camps, there were 43 different questions that we dealt with. And so you just get more than you expect. And the package of the resources that OZPros and Ashley are willing to share with the bootcamp members are very helpful. I mean, they're a point of departure for everybody's specific project, but they certainly, it gets you into the the right ballpark for sure. So yeah, it's great stuff. And so people should attend these things if they can. You won't be sorry. And if you can't, then mark it on your calendar to attend the next one.
Well, and thanks, Patrick. I mean, you mentioned something about the questions. So we also fielded, there were over 40 questions, and I have to throw a huge amount of thanks back to John Vachon and Brett, who isn't here today, but will be on the next workshop, I believe. These guys, they know their stuff, and they're, from a strategic standpoint specifically, it was just amazing to see. We collected 20 questions ahead of time, so we were able to answer a lot of those in the live format, but also we answered questions as they came in, and John was a big part of that. So John, thank you for that. And I don't know if there's anything that you want to add as flavor to this conversation as well, but I appreciate you so much for being a part of it.
No, absolutely. I mean, the thing is that they're outside of OZworks and OZPros. There really is no collaborative ecosystem for opportunity zones. And so this is really where you can kind of get immersed in that. And again, it's however much you want to be exposed to it, this is the place for it, right? And so what I also found is, through some of these more detailed things like the boot camp on Tuesdays, it's 10 a.m. to 11:30 Eastern every Tuesday. It's amazing, right? The questions that are put out there. And even if you don't have a specific question yourself, you can gather so much information just from the community, because it's just rapid fire. And Ashley literally, and what he says all the time is he loves to run things to the ground, right? So he likes to actually say, okay, what are the numbers? Let's run it to the ground and see if this, again, if it works or not. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that people getting in there and just being exposed to that and getting that information, and it triggers, I think, a lot of aha moments for your own opportunity zone project that you may not have thought of before. Because again, you got like 15, sometimes 20 other investors, developers that are actually doing opportunity zone deals. And so it really gets the wheels turning, I think, for a lot of people. And, that's the thing, right? Success breeds success. And I think that's really the collaborative community that's being cultivated there. So.
Yeah, thanks, John. I mean, you're also one of the the strategists here that helps run things to ground, and I find that even in our scenario with OZworks Group, it's just so beneficial to be around you all. And I mean, I learn something every day too, or I'm reminded of something and able to reflect on, hey, why that's important and what I need to focus on. So it's great. And Mike asked a question, is it included or do you have to pay for it? This workshop, kind of bouncing around a little bit, but this workshop in particular is it's a one-off that you can pay for. Anyone can pay for. We do include it in bootcamp membership. I also want to say that the group strategy that I mentioned earlier, that's coming up next week, that one is included in everyone's membership. So you don't have to be like a bootcamp member for that. The other piece to this is we've created, and I think a few of you took this this scorecard tool that we developed, and it was a few weeks ago. I actually wasn't around for it, but I've been getting feedback as we beta test this series of questions that produces a result that kind of introduces a inroad for you no matter where you're at with an opportunity zone journey. And we're going to be doing an event centered around that that's going to be available to the public. And we're going to introduce this tool. We also want to talk a lot about education and how, as a community, you all and OZworks Group as a whole have really been able to take this information to your communities. And that's so important, but we don't have tools. So ultimately, you're kind of like stuck trying to explain to people what the heck is going on with opportunity zones and convince them that they should get involved, right? And so we wanted to start creating tools, and we've created this one in particular to be able to share, whether you're an investor or you've got a project that you're issuing, or community leader, economic development agency, that you can actually take this really easy to understand, or at least to in less than 2 minutes, take kind of a quiz that gives you at least some trajectory or insight as to where you need to go next. The other thing is that those questions pose other questions. So we want to spur interest and curiosity for people to explore more about, well, why do they ask me if I have a capital gain, right? Then you can just easily search opportunity zones, capital gains. So again, it's about producing this stepped process for people to learn, get engaged, and start to really become more knowledgeable in order to move this opportunity zone narrative forward in the genuine way. And you know, whether somebody ultimately takes the scorecard and does an opportunity zone project or not, at least it introduces them to some new concepts that may or may not have been in their peripheral before. So just stay tuned for all this stuff. I know I just kind of threw a lot out there, but in essence, there's 3 events coming up. One next week for everybody who's a member, one the week after for anyone who wants to pay to be included and advised in Working Capital Safe Harbor with Ashley, and the week after that, an open, free to the public resource and tool and conversation about education around opportunity zones. So that's my sort of long-winded version of what's coming up, but I want to just leave the floor open before we do some different type of breakout rooms. Emily's had a really cool idea to kind of frame out some questions, and we'll do them longer than normal. 15 minutes, I think she wants to, allow people to have, which I think is amazing. A little different than the sort of rapid fire speed dating version we've done in the past. But anybody have any thoughts or questions about these new tools, or where we're coming from, why we're doing it? Everything that we've done has really been centered around advocacy, education, and accessibility. And so, Cherie, yeah,